EdTech Mondays Africa is supported by the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning and is part of the MasterCard Foundation Young Africa Works programming.
Glad to have you joining us on a new season of EdTech Mondays Africa. We're coming to you from the land of 1,000 hills, Kigali in Rwanda. This year, our focus is going to be on the 10 recommendations from the MasterCard Foundation EdTech Conference that happened in Abuja, Nigeria in 2024. Those 10 recommendations are going to be looking into what are some of the success stories that we can share, what are some of the challenges that we continue to face, and what are some of the solutions to these challenges. But here's the key factor. We are going to be looking at some of the countries across Africa that are setting the pace for EdTech across the continent in education and what we can learn from those countries. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. So glad to have you joining us on yet another season. And to kick us off this year is championing EdTech solutions for EdTech innovations through policy. We start the conversation at ES Kanombe Efotech, a school that is located 20 minutes drive out of Kigali Central Business District. This school has benefited from Rwanda's ICT in education policy of 2016. What are some of the positive impacts that we can observe? We're here to find out firsthand and witness what's happening in the classrooms. How are learners adapting to technology in education? And also, how can we better champion local innovation to support some of these technology in education policies? Rwanda's Minister of Education, Joseph Nsengimana, is on a schools tour. The EdTech Mondays Africa team joined him on one of the tours to find out how Rwanda is championing policies that support local innovation and how these policies are impacting the ecosystem. Honorable Minister, it's really great to have you connect with the learners, and really joining you on one of these school tours is quite interesting. I just wanted to understand, after, sitting in the classroom and observing what these learners are doing, how does that make you feel, especially knowing that you're a policymaker, policy implementer in Rwanda today?
I was impressed that the teacher was actually using technology to explain learners, and the learners were actually actively participating in the discussion. And I think seeing it, seeing the heartbeat, does really allow the student to connect, because they can relate to it. They can feel their own heart beating, and they can start to look at the different parts of the heart. And I think it's going to help them remember the parts better than if they just looked at a written or a drawn picture of the heart.
Great. And so, is this different from the way you learned in school?
Very much so. Very much so. I think that when I was in school, we used a lot of drawing. We didn't have the technology in a classroom, and so it's always great to see that the kids nowadays are actually using technology. And the one thing that actually is even better is that after doing the class, doing the lesson itself, they actually go outside and build things. They actually try to replicate that using their own creativity, the local material that they find around the school. And so I think that accentuates the learning, because you've learned the theory part, you've seen it on a picture, but then you go the extra mile and actually build it. And so I think those 3 steps is going to be critical in them learning. So I think us as policymakers, what we need to do is create an environment that is conducive to that learning.
I would like for us to speak to innovation, because these are young learners and they represent the current generation of learners on the continent today, that they prefer to visualize things and see them and then implement. And that does speak to quite a bit on innovation, especially local innovation. How have the policies in Rwanda influenced this kind of learning that we are seeing today?
I think that the policy of the country has been really geared towards promoting this kind of learning, right? Competency-based learning, for instance. The introduction of this way of learning was geared to sort of like promote where you learn and you become competent, fully increase the competency in the subject. But the way in which that happens, as I indicated, is to actually connect the mind and the hands. You learn by doing. And I think that's sort of like what we've been trying to do. If you look at the policies that have been established in Rwanda, the ICT in education policy, for instance, that was established in 2016, it promotes the in connecting schools, making sure that they have the resources, being internet, being devices, being the training, so that they use these tools in teaching and in learning. So that has been what we've been focusing on from a policy perspective.
What are the needs currently in the education ecosystem in Rwanda that maybe developers need to be aware of? Or are they even aware of the opportunities that are presented under the different policies in the country?
Everything that we purchase, we actually announce it, we put it out there. And actually right now we are making an effort to make sure that these developers are included in the conversation prior to sourcing these technologies. So that's one thing we're doing to raise awareness. However, we also want to make sure that once we have established these ways in which to purchase local technologies, then that's going to make it easy for them, and easier for them, I should say. We are creating actually communities, the EdTech communities in the countries, so that we can easily communicate with them. We set up different social media group, like even low-level social media like WhatsApp group, which bring together EdTech innovators, and also collaborate with the ICT chamber to make sure that every opportunity is actually communicated to innovators so that they can start working on it.
There are countries that say, we borrowed lessons from South Korea, and then there are countries that say we've borrowed lessons from Rwanda. How is Rwanda doing it that other countries can pick lessons and implement?
So what we've done is, and they really to highlight the importance of technology, is a direction. You set a direction, you set, in essence, a roadmap that everybody can follow. And so for us, it's been helpful because then we can have a direction for everybody. So you don't have people just pulling in different directions. So it helps us to support schools. It helps us to ensure that we can mobilize resources because we can show what we're trying to do. And so for me, I think that having a policy that is actionable, an actionable policy, is important. And I would encourage others to do the same because it really helps you both in direction and mobilizing resources. I would think it would be very hard pressed to find an implementation or adoption of technology in education without a policy. At least it won't be one that is inclusive. You would find some that can do it with private schools, well-to-do schools. But if you want to have an inclusive implementation, you're going to need a policy.
The Honorable Minister spoke about intentionality around the implementation of policies. Rwanda's policies have had a trickle effect on not just the implementers, but also we're seeing educators and schools as well being positively impacted by these policies. How has policy implementation positively impacted learning and transformed learning at the school?
The policies of the Ministry of Education impacted learning through the support they give the schools. For example, in our school, the government of Rwanda has been supportive in different ways. First of all, they support the schools through the infrastructure. They also support the schools through internet connection and installations. And the support from the Ministry of Education was a great impact to education, especially in secondary schools, whereby the students learn using that technology, whereby students make research. So the Ministry of Education has been supportive in different ways.
What more do you think needs to be done to make the experience even better for you as a school?
Put more emphasis on just introducing technology in schools and mobilizing the schools to use that the resources, because when you emphasis on that technology, it helps more. Because, for example, if you have like a library, just have some books, but when you're not in the library, there are some books that you get online.
Policies around ICT in education or technology in education do not just affect the high-level investments. They also trickle down to the educators, including the teachers. And we want to find out, how are teachers in Rwanda being positively impacted by the policies that have been implemented in the country?
So here in our schools, we do apply this technology, ICT, in our teaching learning process in our day. So there are many tools that we are using. Some of them, we use computers. We use also projectors. We do project the content, the lesson, and also we use videos. So in order to introduce the lessons, we show the student the real what's happening. Then when they see that videos, it facilitates us just to enter into the content.
Are there any local innovations invented or put together by Rwandan innovators in this case? Are you using any of those kinds of solutions built by Rwandans and are being implemented or used in your teaching?
We do use that. Like when we record the marks for the student, we have a system known as Urubuto. That Urubuto was developed by Bank of Kigali. So now it is used, even when they pay school fees, they use that software. That one, it is local, it is just available. You have what you call Kamis. Kamis also is a new also system or software, which is used by one education, so that they can manage everything which is happening to schools.
How are your students catching up with technology in the classroom?
Their digital skills related to how to manipulate the ICT tools have been improved. So that's why you see they are now able to do something from the ICT. Not only seeing how ICT is going on, but they also be able to do something which is tangible that can help our society, can help our education system. As you see, those are those materials they have made from the research. They can be used everywhere in Rwandan schools for research.
Did you get training through a government program, or are you a self-trained technology teacher?
We have been trained about digital skills by REB, where teachers, they are now able to use different tools in the teaching learning. So I have been also trained about this Microsoft certificate indicator, even get different certificates, even like this using Kahoot, is just from the training.
Would you say that the policies in the country are what have gotten you to this level of using technology very confidently? Do you think that policies play a role in making sure that teachers get the right training?
Our country has good policies related to improve these digital skills. That's why they prepare those different training related to the ICT. We are now in the 21st century, so we prepare the students that will be also one of the leaders. So when they have these digital skills, they are now able to do what? Let's say to put into the action or the different processes prepared by the government.
So we've heard from the teachers talking about how, implementation of policy is making it easier for them to navigate the pedagogical methods and approaches. Now that we know what the teachers think, let's hear from the students. How is technology transforming the learning process for them?
For us as scholars in EdTech, talking about the ICTs, that it is very helpful and very sustaining. It helps us to engage with the courses, getting more experience with the course, actually with physically working theories, using the simulations. We also use the some ICT tools to make a research and make other big things that we can use so that whenever we are out of the school, when we graduate, we could be actually fitting with the required standard of the outside environment.
Which is your favorite technology tool that you use for research?
My favorite technology tool that I use for research is computer. While using computer, I go on Google search and make researches about different topics in like the assignments that teacher gave us and see some answers, the project that you have seen that we made and give some answers. And there are sometimes we use Google Classrooms and teacher posts something on a Google Classroom, like an assignment or a homework, we do it and we use Google Docs or Canvas or PowerPoint to present the projects, to present the assignment.
You mentioned something about it helps you to do your research. And, you're given exercises in Google Classroom. But tell me about the part where when you don't understand something, both from the teacher and online, what do you do?
I ask my colleague students. Also, I can to the teacher and ask him more about what he has said to us, what he has signed to us if I don't understand it well. Yeah, it happens so much. And I use the help of the teacher, the library, and my colleague.
Listening to the students, it's not just imperative that policies speak to local innovation, but policies do make local innovation make sense to the young learners. It makes the innovations more relatable to the learners as opposed to sourcing external solutions to local problems. And this is part of why championing local innovation is important. But how exactly is Rwanda doing it? And how is it working best for them? Is it transforming the education ecosystem all the way down to the learner and the teacher, the educator, and the entire ecosystem? How is it supportive of the local innovators?
I think that when we look at the use of technology in schools, we need to remember that at the end of the day, it's about learning, right? So we need to first start with learning. We want to be able to create an environment where our children can learn and can prosper, can acquire knowledge, can acquire skills. That's where we're starting from. And then from there, we realize, how can they do that? How can they use technology to even improve that learning process? And once we understand that, we can then say, what kind of technology should they be using? Is there a technology that understands where they're coming from, right? Or is it a generic technology that might be using realities that does not match their own realities? And this is where the local entrepreneurs can shine. But the local entrepreneurs also have to understand that it's not about replicating the technology that's being done elsewhere and just that is done locally. No, it's about the technology that actually addresses local needs using local knowledge and local realities. So that's where I think they outshine the generic international content. And if they approach it that way, I think they have a good shot at it.
Championing local innovation isn't just about giving opportunity to innovators. It is also about making the education ecosystem more relatable to the local nuances in specific countries. Are we supporting our young innovators and entrepreneurs who are developing solutions to Africa's educational challenges an opportunity to be part of improving the education ecosystem? That is the question we would like to find answers to. And we will be speaking to experts in the EdTech ecosystem to speak to us about how best this can happen and what more needs to be done to make it an even more success. Throughout 2024, we did focus on quite a bit to do with how best can we implement EdTech. What are some of the challenges? And at the EdTech conference of 2024 that was hosted by the MasterCard Foundation, we did come up with 10 recommendations by the about 600 stakeholders who attended this conference. One of those recommendations was championing local innovation through EdTech policies, and who needs to be at the forefront, from the government leaders to the educators. What about the teachers and the parents? And how do we make it even more meaningful and intentional for us to have local innovations aligning with our pedagogical methods or approaches? I'm excited for our panelists, who also happen to be an all-women panel, who are very key in their different capacities. Therese Kojo, a global partnership manager at Academic Bridge, which is a leading edtech organization here in Rwanda, focused on innovative school information management systems. She is passionate about driving impactful digital transformation in learning systems. We also have Dr. Jennifer Batamuliza, who is a lecturer and head of data-driven incubation hub and short professional courses, Department of Business and Information Technology at the African Center of Excellence, Data Science, University of Rwanda. Dr. Emeline Umunoza Gasana, lecturer at University of Rwanda, College of Science and Technology, School of Science, Department of Mathematics. I am so excited to be having you all on this discussion, not just because we're all women, but because of the expertise that you bring into this discussion. And just to kick us off, let me start with a poll question that we're asking our audiences, and I would like to pick your brain on this as well. What more should governments do to develop policies that champion local innovation in education in Africa?
I would say the focus should be on the learners and the educators, because those are the ones that we serve, no matter the tech that we are creating. So let's start with them and understand what they need, how they can be competitive on a global market, and how they also can, educate and grow in their education in general. But then, of course, coming from the edtech world, I would say governments need to start collaborating with edtech companies and understanding the policies needed in order for these edtech companies to be in a synergy with the learners and the teachers.
I'm on the teacher side, but if we talk about learners, those are the ones that are going to implement those policies if they are put in place. They are the ones who are going to bring out those innovations. So I would say I would give more weight to the learners and teacher-centered solutions, and also, as she said, partnership with I would say, local startups, so that they can bring out those solutions that the learners and teachers need for these. And the policies, they might be there already there, but we need people to implement and put them in place.
Like my colleagues, I can also say learners and teachers, but I'll also talk about private and public partnership. I understand that this is really key, because if all is done but without the partnership, then some things cannot work. So I can say more strength can be put in private public partnership.
So now, getting into the championing of local innovation, there's quite a bit that's happening in the edtech space. We always hear about fintech and everything tech, but education, the fact that we are now embracing technology in education, I'm curious to know, and I'll start with Emeline. As an educator, what is your view of edtech in Rwanda today?
As an educator, I would say that we are adopting. We are adopting, and for its worth, we have the government support. I think we heard earlier about from the ministers that we have now about 60% connected, and connecting 20%. Connectivity, including the next quarter, I think, 20%. So we have the support. You have heard some programs or initiatives like one laptop per child. So yes, as educators, we are adopting, but we still have many challenges. And the good thing, the country is trying to help with this, but we still have digital divide. Not all, even if it's going there, but we still have these, and also the teachers. The teachers, they are not all ready. They are not all trained. We still have to have this continuously being trained, this professional development about digital skills. All these have to be put in place. And also, I think there should be more partnership, as the question said, more partnership with the private and or just local digital startups to help let's say align the Rwandan curriculum to the education, the technology education into the Rwanda curriculum, so that we don't have all of the. Yes, you can learn online, but if all the examples, if everything that we can do from the US it doesn't really relate to what you study. So if we have this partnership with the local support, if the government could support these local startups, these tech startups to deliver those solutions, localized solutions, this will be more, I think will present more awareness, because now even the teachers, they know how to bring them, how to integrate those into their schools.
You're actually speaking to someone who innovates on this. Therese, you're an innovator. You are behind a solution that does a school information management system. How is that working for you? Do you have government support in the implementation of this? Has your solution been embraced locally? Tell us about that.
The government is open to creating more digital solutions for this specific problem. And going back to what you were saying in terms of creating opportunities for local companies, I think it's not just in Rwanda. I think in general, we need to be more open to share this type of information on the continent. The best thing that Rwanda is doing at the moment is being open to digital solutions. And they're way ahead in comparison to other countries. But as we said here, we need more collaboration between the private sector and the government. The private sector is developing products and services, but we also need the government to enforce those policies. We need the government to look at what the education system is looking like now in 2024, 10 years ahead. What are we going to need for our children to be on the global market? We can't just think about our children here in Rwanda, because at the end of the day, you can have a developer in Nigeria that's working in the US, right? Yeah. And if connectivity is tough, if what would you say, the quality of education is not up to par, they will fall behind. And that will be the representation that we have globally.
That's very intriguing. So this solution was created out of a need to reduce the amount of time spent by the teachers themselves trying to put data together. Would you say that data is one of the challenges that we need to work on?
Yes, because data is what is going to inform us to enforce policies and I would say the services that we need to progress. In terms of data, also from the tech side, we're talking about the policies around data, keeping data. Where do we want to keep the data? Do we have enough servers and functioning servers here on the continent or in our country in Rwanda? Or do we need to expand, keep our data? For the moment, I would say most tech companies actually don't keep their data in their current country because of connectivity and because of the pressure of all the data that needs to be kept. But if the government works on policies that attracts that type of, competence and that is competitive or has the right pricing, has the right qualifications, I think we would benefit from that.
All right, Jennifer, I'm coming to you because data happens to be one of those had to find, had to reach things by some of these innovators, and I'm sure you've clearly heard what she said. And then there's also, of course, the worry, especially from the government, around privacy and security of this data. Do you want to talk to us about how we can navigate some of these challenges?
Clear guidelines need to be put in place because sometimes you find that the data is there, but then the people don't want to reveal the data because they are really worried about privacy and the like. So clear guidelines should be there. Clear guidelines on data collection, clear guidelines on data storage, clear guidelines on data processing, and even data sharing. So this has to be there. So that teachers, students can feel free to share the data. Another thing I can talk about is about informed consent. So when I talk about informed consent, I mean that the people should know why their data is being collected and how the data is going to be used, and if there are also consequences that can come with that. So there should be informed consent. For adults, of course, they can give consent themselves, but then for the minors, the parents or the guardians can give consent and the data can be collected. Another thing I can talk about is about anonymity, like hiding data, like more sensitive data. So you find that most of the time people want to collect data, but then they have no clear ways of anonymizing the data. So here I can talk of different data, like some people don't want to reveal about their maybe socioeconomic status. They don't want to reveal about their, many things, even the gender. So if this anonymity could be in place, and this is through the data governance frameworks, then this can help.
Emmeline, if I come back to you, Jennifer was talking about the skilling of teachers, and how would you evaluate the progress of digital skills, for educators in Rwanda today? Because if we look at the government policies, if we're going to attach it to the government policies, do you think that the policies are supportive of the skilling of educators?
The answer will be yes. I think the policies are there and they are supportive. You can just see, like, for example, the Vision 2050. This just aims to knowledge-based and, let's say, technology-driven economy. So, which means that we are already put in place. The policies are there. I think in Rwanda it's not about lack of policies. I think we have those, but it's how are those implemented? I think that's how we can evaluate how far we go. How far are we to implementing this? What are the policies in place, and how are they aligned with the education? What are they aligned with the curriculum? Yes, I would say so far I would say it's working, but we still need to have this, let's say, a way to just evaluate continuously. Right. To iterate. So now it's working. If this is not working, then what should we improve? Because technology is not something that's just there, static. So it's changing every time. So now we have AI. We have now all the educators, we're afraid of ChatGPT because you just hear the students. They just hear a student at the same and they put it there and they have all the answers. You see? So master. Yes, but now how can we leverage the generative AIs, all these AIs that she was talking about? How can help us to do the attendance? We can use generative AI to self-grade the assessment. You don't have to go and grade it so you have 100 students. You don't have to sit and grade each and everyone. They'll just do assessment and they have their gradings.
Even though we are willing to go far and fast together, I think we need to also kind of have some grace as well. It's because the people that are talking about AI now are not those are the early adopters. Even though it's late, they are the early adopters. On a global scale, they're late, but in this context, they're early. So how do you explain AI to someone that's like, why do I need to have a work email and a personal email?
Yes.
Right. And these are educators that still, they do want to provide, great quality education with what they know.
Yeah.
So how do we do that? How do we reach them as a company in the private sector? At the moment, despite the effort of the government, I would say that we put a lot of effort on onboarding and reboarding. We onboard them and they're like, yes. And then we come back and we reboard because there's probably someone that say, okay, but I don't like the way that the attendance is done, or I don't like the way the grading is done. Why do I have to grade on paper and then put it into the system? But they know that they can do it in the system.
How much more do we need to skill educators to bring them to the level where they are constantly on top of their game and ahead of the students? Because today we have the challenge of students knowing more than their educators or than their teachers.
One thing we need to do is to accept that it's there and it's there to stay. That's the first step we need to do. It's like the beginning of calculators. So say, we used to have this, we keep these numbers using our heads. So why now do we have to have a calculator do it for you? I'm sure at that time there was some resistance about it. So now we should say, just let us embrace it, but how can we use it on our own advantage now? How can we use it how can we now, let's say, instead of just saying, don't use AI, but how can you tell it, students, this is how you should use it? Yes, it's there, but this is how you can use for you to get more knowledge, to get more experience about your learning than how it is. So I think coming to your question, how do we evaluate? So we need to evaluate about the progress achieved. How many teachers are trained? We have users trained about using this e-learning, how to use this self-grade quizzes, and also about yes, exactly, all those. How can we like say how instead of having we you know, for all the websites now we have a chat box that will say we help you answer questions. Why don't we have such chat box that where student will ask, I want to learn something like that. What can you? Which class should I attend? What do you think would be the most program I should follow if I want to be this? So if we have this, let's say, individualized, generated AIs, that's something we can use. That's something which companies like us that so. We we can evaluate by going like, what's the progress achieved? What's the ICT infrastructure put in place? How many smart classrooms do we have across the country? What are they are there, yes, but how many use them? Because sometimes we can have these labs, we can have these smart classrooms, but they are just there for decorations. For showing off, we have these. Following years, how they are implemented. Exactly, are they used? Who are using them? And we do have one teacher at the school who is using them, but or do you have all the teachers who are able to use it? So and also us as teachers, as educators, we need to always keep up with the progress, because if the student know more than we do, then it's a problem. Because now we won't even be able to guide them. So we need to always learn as ourselves, and sometimes to unlearn.
When you're navigating the different education environments, you know, you will look at a policy and say, I think this one is not working here. But Jennifer, please talk to us about some of these policy challenges that you face when scaling data-driven solutions around education environments.
Even though we have the policies, but then still there is need for enhancement so that we can have the better student learning outcomes. So here I can say, yeah, some of the policies are favoring, but then, yeah, they need to be enhanced. So here I can also talk of maybe having very clear policies on, for example, on this digital divide that we have. So you see that students in cities, of course, they're really good. They have access to equipment. They have access to skills. They have access to internet and all that. But then when it comes to maybe to the rural area, you find that there is that problem that they lack devices and all that. So I think the government can also have clear policies on that. And then I can also talk of having affordable infrastructure. So government can have clear policies on that, because you find that sometimes there is that infrastructure which is not, I can say, which is not sustainable, and also maintenance and of those infrastructure. So in some of the rural schools, you find that infrastructure is there. We have the smart classrooms. But then sometimes they're like, oh, it's not working. Like, you know, having clear policies on how this can be done and in a continuous way.
I'd like us to bring this conversation to a close. Is there more that needs to be done or that can be done from a policy perspective to support EdTech in Rwanda and across the African continent? Emmeline, let me start with you.
Supporting more local solutions, I think, and also do this more partnerships with those who can bring those local solutions. And then otherwise, I think the learners will just to catch up and bring it to the solution that they need, the global solutions, and all the global challenges that they might face. They will be ready at that say. Because if they can do it locally, and then they can bring the solutions, and then can be able to also adjust to wherever they will go.
I can also say that governments need to really strengthen the private-public partnership. Like, emphasizing on this because I know that when people come together working towards a common goal, it's really easier than each working independently. And then another thing is, as much as we work on having our local policies, but we also need to look at the international policies. We really need to benchmark on that. Another thing I can say is that the government really needs to invest also in these innovations. Here I can talk of having these, supporting the innovation hubs, incubators for people who are working on EdTech solutions, on local EdTech solutions. Here they can also help them in seed funding, connecting them with outside funders and all that. I think the government can do that so that they can have funds, and this can help in sustainability of that, and also having efficient and effective solutions, and also involving much the teachers, because I know Rwanda, we have really done a lot, but again, a lot needs to be done, especially investing in teachers, making sure that there is capacity building, ongoing professional development for them to really understand and adapt the solutions. Because if they don't adapt, then innovators will be there.
Eventually, the outside will want to invest in them. And that's how innovators from the continent get bought up by international companies. I think it's very important for our African leaders in general to think about what we already have. We don't need to go outside. What we need is to be at the same level as everyone globally, have policies that make us strong enough so that we do not need to look elsewhere. We look within our continent, right? I would also say the collaboration, as you said, is very, very important. There are numerous of times where the government has developed something that was already being developed by the private sector. It does not make sense. I think the government maybe needs to allocate a specific, team for that has to be like, what's going on? Let's not duplicate. Let's share maybe APIs. Let's find a solution to not overextend ourselves, because we need to accelerate fast. And us as Africans, we need to accelerate. We don't need to rest. Let's just accelerate as much as we can in general.
Great. Thank you all so much for this energetic conversation. I have really felt the solutions that need to be put in place, and I hope that to our policymakers and implementers who are following the conversation now, at least you have an idea. We're not short of policies, we're just short of the implementation. And I guess with that, we can sort of tie that into what the Minister of Education was saying, that we need to do more to encourage local innovators and also find a way to incorporate those local innovations into the pedagogical teaching methods or approaches, so that it's easier for us to have localized nuances and context in our education ecosystems enabled by technology. Thank you all for joining us in this conversation on championing local innovation through EdTech policies. My name is Joy Doreen Bira. We'll see you on the next edition.
EdTech Mondays Africa is supported by the MasterCard Foundation Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning and is part of the MasterCard Foundation Young Africa Works programming.